Half-Life is an FPS action video game about fighting aliens in an attempt to escape a scientific research facility after a resonance cascade, in which Gordon Freeman accidentally opens an interdimensional portal while performing an experiment. The game came out in 1998, and for more than a few reasons, it is considered by many to be one of the greatest games of all time. I played this game for the first time when I was about 14, and I remember even then being incredibly impressed by just how well the interaction and navigation is explained to the player, as well as how many emergent elements the community has found in the form of things like glitches,
Think we're getting any closer?
mods, speedruns, etc. Games are primarily about a connection between the player, the game world, and the central mechanic of the game. Although Half-Life is primarily a first-person shooter, it can also be a puzzle game at times, and although it came out in 1998, the feeling when you solve those puzzles is satisfying, and it can also be good to get a break from shooting zombies from time to time. The game technically has a tutorial, but even without it, most of the interaction feels very intuitive, and you progress through the game with a feeling of accomplishment as you complete every task. Valve, who also developed Steam, included a lot of really helpful non-verbal techniques to help the player more easily navigate the environment and interact with the world. One of the first things you're likely to notice is the use of lighting and color, and how it's used to help you navigate through the courses. You press E to interact with things in the world. This can be anything from picking something up to nuking something in a microwave, and the game even makes a little beeping sound when you can't do anything with the interaction. I've personally played both the original and source versions of Half-Life 1, as well as the player-created Black Mesa, which was originally created as a mod for Half-Life 1. I personally really like Black Mesa, and I think it's a faithful recreation, especially since the original source version of Half-Life leaves a lot to be desired. Which of course leads me to my next point. Emergent gameplay is a title where the mechanics afford the player to create new strategies and utility beyond their original intent or utilization. Half-Life is a largely linear game, meaning its chapters have set start and end points, at which point a different level will begin. However, there are things that the player is able to do outside of that to add a sense of agency. For instance, if you intentionally go down the wrong path and end up finding ammo or a battery for your HEV suit, you feel rewarded. Although the story of the game is the same every time, it feels like it has endless replayability, because the gameplay is rewarding, and although the story never changes, you are able to have some agency with how quickly you proceed through it. In this realm, something of interest is speedruns. The speedrun community of Half-Life is very much alive despite the game coming out 27 years ago. This game took me about 12 hours the first time I played it, and the world record for it is about 25 minutes. You can see how he utilizes the game mechanics like the movement and the physics by moving back and forth really quickly to gain speed at an insane velocity, something that a lot of top runners are able to do. It's a good example of an emergent gameplay element that is both very common nowadays in a lot of different games, and also showcases the ways that games such as Half-Life can be exploited and played with in different ways, depending on the player. A good example of this game mechanic exploitation is early on in the speedrun in the elevator. When he gets to it, he leaps down, and instead of dying, he hits the bottom of the ladder, which completely prevents fall damage. I tried this particular move a couple of times, but I couldn't quite get it right myself, so I may need to devote a little bit more time to perfecting my technique before I can become a professional speedrunner. Another thing of interest in terms of emergent elements are glitches. Personally, I prefer to talk about the source engine for this, as it already lends itself to many glitches to begin with. In fact, there's a whole page on the developer community dedicated to bugs and glitches. This can complement speedrunners, as they can make use of certain glitches to lower their times, but certain other glitches can also make gameplay a lot more difficult. I used Half-Life Source to get a lot of the footage for this video because it has a chapter select option, and the original game doesn't. However, I came across a lot of bugs that range from honestly annoying to completely game-breaking. This seems to be largely due to the fact that Valve simply placed the original game into the source engine without much thought or tweaking. This is why I believe that the original Half-Life or Black Mesa are both infinitely better alternatives for newcomers to the franchise. Regardless, there are just so many gameplay aspects to focus on in Half-Life. Way too many for this video. Hopefully though, this gave you somewhat of an idea as to my thoughts on a few aspects of the interactivity and the emergent gameplay inherent to Half-Life. And if you haven't played any of the Half-Life games, I highly recommend checking them out, particularly the original Half-Life, Half-Life 2, and Black Mesa as well. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.
No! Think we're getting any closer? No!
Don't you find this all rather fascinating?